down the hammer and pick up the pencil. You're about to listen to the Savvy Radio Show. Learn from real-life real estate investors, experience revealed with the Savvy Landlord as your host.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls around the world. Yep. You tuned in to the Savvy Radio Show. Man, I'm just excited. Why? Well, first, I love to interview people that inspire me. The crazy thing is this guy doesn't think that I inspire him, and he thinks that he doesn't think that he inspires me, and I don't think I inspire him, but we have a synergy because of that. We met in Ohio, RIA, about 2 years ago. Mr. Kurt Phillips, is that right?
That's right. Yeah, it was a little over 2 years ago, as a matter of fact.
And we have just been fast friends. We have a lot of things in common. You have a very busy family. Now you have a beautiful wife who supports you, especially the tough times. And that's really why I wanted to interview you today is the tough times of working a 9-to-5 job. And a lot of people listen to the radio show and they're young and they're on the edge of quitting their job. And I just want to introduce the world to someone that inspires me. That's like the whole goal here. Here's the agenda. And so first off, let's talk about who's Kurt Phillips? Where are you from? Were you born in Lancaster? That's it. I said it right. Ohio? Basically,
yeah, it's Lancaster, Ohio, and Lancaster, Pennsylvania, for all you Pennsylvanians.
All right. So were you born there? Are you from there?
I am, yeah, and appreciate this, Stephen. I'm excited this is definitely my passion for young folks and for them trying to figure out how they can get out of their job and things. But yeah, so I grew up here in Lancaster. It's a small city of about 45,000 people. We're basically a suitcase community for Columbus. So everybody that goes to college in Lancaster goes to Ohio State, the Ohio State University, and they're a Buckeye. So we all grow up in scarlet and gray and, all that kind of stuff. Grew up in a blue collar household. My father owned his own concrete contracting business for, 40 some years. And so I can remember, 12 years old, he's got me down the footers. I'm tying rebar and, slopping around in the mud. And, he taught me what hard work was young. I'll tell you that. And, as I was doing concrete, I can remember thinking, I don't know that I want to do this for the rest of my life,
Yeah, that's awesome. Since I've known you for 2 years, I know that you're passionate about financial intelligence and you want to help people, especially on children and the investors that you hang out with, about understanding financial concepts. That's the weird dichotomy there because you're blue collar, and now you're kind of in a white collar. You're not in a white collar world now as a real estate investor, but you spend a lot of time in the white collar world of educating people about financial concepts. Is that, first of all, before we get into what you actually do now, but how, so you're born there and then bam, you found this beautiful wife, or did you work a day job? Did you go to college?
Yeah.
I got 1,000 questions. We'll start there. And then did you ever think that you would be in real estate?
No, never dreamed it. So just to give you some perspective, my father was actually the first one and the first male in as long as I can ever remember, to graduate from high school. And he only did that because he promised his older sister that he would. And so he stuck it out, barely passed. And then I was actually the first one to graduate from college in the history of the Phillips male lineage, as far as we know. And I graduated with a youth ministry degree. And I can remember telling my wife specifically, I'm like, I met my wife in college. I'll back up a little bit. Met my wife, Elizabeth, met her in college. She was like summa, uma, kuma, all those really smart things. And I was like, I graduated. That's like, that's my
You accomplished.
Yeah, I didn't stop. I at least made it to the end.
It's awesome because my wife is 3 degrees and blah, 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 and works really too hard. I just wanted to get this deal done.
Yeah. That was me. I mean, I enjoyed the youth ministry aspect and studying those things, but ultimately college was just, it was just hard for me, man. There's so many other things I wanted to do, and I just didn't fit into that, academia box, if you will. But I can literally remember telling my wife when we decided we were going to get married and I was in college, I said, I'm going to be a youth pastor, a pastor of some kind. So you should probably just get used to being broke. Like, I literally said that to her. So no, I never had a vision for being a real estate investor.
So all right, this is crazy. So your goal at the time was to be a youth minister, and your wife, what was her goals, or did she have a job or a direction of a career? And then did those mesh together, or were they conflicts? Not conflicts in a negative, like they don't go together. What was her passion?
She was a real career-minded student. I mean, she was a student that would challenge every professor, that would go the extra mile. I mean, she got 1 B, I think, in her whole, it's just stuff like that. I'm like, I got a B once, and she's like, I only got 1, and because everything else was A. But so she was really career-minded as far as what she wanted to do. And for me, I just wanted to pastor. Like, I loved people. I wanted to bless them. I wanted to serve them. And that was all I could see. As far as making a living, I just hoped I could make a living doing that.
Sure. What industry did Elizabeth, your wife, get a degree in? Or what?
Yeah. So one of them was linguistics. And then she also got a degree in literature, English literature. Cool. She's always been a writer and an artist. But she was going more of the corporate route. She wanted to get her master's in some form of business and administration and things. But when we were in college, we had a conversation, and my mother always stayed home with us boys. I have 2 older brothers, right? And she always stayed home with us. And I always just thought that was the way it was supposed to be. I wasn't thinking this is some like male chauvinist thing. I just thought, well, it would be a good idea. And so my wife. So I said something to her. I'm like, hey, when we get married, I really want you to stay at home when we have children. Ooh. And I didn't think this was like a bomb. I thought this was just casual conversation. And she literally looked at me and she said, well, I'm going to have to pray about that. And she took like 2 days, didn't talk to me. And I don't know what she did, but I thought that was it. I thought, man, I should have waited to tell her after I had the ring.
So Miss Kumulati or whatever, just all her balloon just got deflated because you were going to be the breadwinner and she was going to be the stay-home mom. Interesting growth process. It's interesting because similar to mine, my wife was very career-minded and I was already in real estate. And then when we had children, the third one, she quit and never went back. So similar. All right. So you're a young family. You get married right out of college, I guess, or during that process?
Right after college, yeah.
Okay. And then, so how about career paths? Were you a youth minister for a while? Did you pursue that career? Okay. So you're loving the Lord. You're investing in our future of youth. What happened there? And how long did you sustain in that? And again, we haven't even touched on real estate yet. So that was not oblivious in your mind at all, right? That wasn't in your mind at all?
Well, they kind of overlapped, honestly, Stephen, because when we got married, our pastor had said, because we were 2 broke kids right out of college, and he said one of the things that he and his wife did was they bought a rental and they lived in part of it. And he said it was a really financially sound decision for them. And so he said, maybe you guys could do something like that. And so I had a 1971 Nova with a 350 in it, and I sold it. This is back when I had hair and everything. I sold it. And that's what we used for a down payment to buy a duplex. And so one side was occupied and the other side of this duplex was completely trashed. And I knew how to do concrete, but as far as handyman stuff, I just wasn't real handy. And so we were way in over our head, but that's what we did. We bought it. And at the time I was a youth pastor and she was actually an insurance agent. Or helped run an insurance agency. And so she was making pretty good money out of college and I was making peanuts. But somehow, we sold that car and managed to buy a duplex. And we did that within the first 1.5 years of our marriage.
Okay. So let me get this straight. Some great shepherd in your life, AKA your pastor, AKA your boss, suggested, hey, here's a way to increase your income because the church, obviously is on a budget.
Yep.
Buy rentals. What, I mean, as a typical male, a Chevy dream car for some.
It was fast.
And to motivate, there had to have been a defining moment that says, hey, I'm going to give up this for that. What happened there? What really pushed you over the edge? Was it a wife thing? Was it like the pastor thing? What motivated you to say, I'm going to give up my dream car so I could buy a duplex and I have no earthly idea what I'm doing?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I wish I had some deep philosophical answer for you. But really, there isn't much of one because I always was kind of money-minded, money-conscious. And when we sat down and we ran some real elementary numbers on this duplex, and it just seemed like a good idea, but we couldn't come up with a down payment. And I just knew I had this car sitting here. It's in Ohio. There's salt on the roads in the wintertime. The winters are harsh, and it's hard on an old classic car. And for me, it was just a logical decision. My wife literally didn't push it at all. It wasn't one of those things like she's looking at me all fish-eyed like, well, you could always sell that car. It was nothing like that. It was.
She's cool. She's so supportive.
She really is. She is. And so, yeah, we ended up selling it quick. We knew a guy that was looking for a car similar to that. So I gave him a call, and I literally within a week I had it sold. Of making the decision to sell it, it was gone, and we had our down payment a little bit more than what we needed.
So now we're a year and a half into our marriage. We're still trying to figure out what toothpaste we like, and you're liquidating your assets. Or that wasn't even an asset. And that's the cool thing. We haven't let the cat out of the bag that your passion is financial education. I mean, you for a long time, you have a love for numbers, and you love to help people with numbers. Were you privy or understood assets and liabilities at this time? And were you educated in this arena? Because you mentioned that you were a youth minister in college. So they don't teach, P&Ls as a pastor.
No.
And then now we're liquidating a asset. So what were you really that sophisticated at that time? Was it rolling in your mind? Or, I mean, and you should be authentic here, bro, because I really read Rich Dad Poor Dad, said buy assets, you could be rich. Why not? And that's how it all happened for me. And it could be as simplistic as that for you. But I know you now personally, and I hope that these people that are listening will really gravitate towards you because you fill an area where I think a lot of real estate investors, and that's the main reason why I have you on here, that they're insecure about their financials. I coach a lot of people, and a lot of them don't even know what a financial statement is. A lot of people don't even know what a P&L is. And they don't even know what a W-2, a W-9 is. And just the other day, it's the first year, and you got to have your W-9s turned in. And the guy was like, looked at me with a deer in headlights on, are you serious? I'm required by the end of the month? That's an accounting practice. Now, I didn't learn that 20 years ago. So my question is, were you really into the numbers and stuff then when you were just trying to figure out life and marriage and, toothpaste?
I can say not as nearly as much as I am now, that's for sure. But I had an understanding of the numbers enough. I had my stepdad was an accountant, and so he forced me to balance my checkbooks back in high school.
Wow. What a great guy.
Yeah, he really, it was a tremendous help for me. And I can remember even with him going out to nice places and being around powerful men and, that type of thing. And I remember how that made me feel. And so it's funny that I even told my wife, hey, we're probably going to be broke, so just get used to it, because that's not what I wanted for my life at all. That's not how I was wired. And so buying that duplex and keeping track of our finances was just kind of I don't want to say it was natural, but it was definitely something that I had a pulse on, because I knew I wanted more out of life even then. And by the way, Stephen, you mentioned Rich Dad Poor Dad. I didn't have my Rich Dad Poor Dad moment until probably my early to mid 30s.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So we got a duplex now. Obviously, for the new people out there that have never bought a property before, give us some pains and wins on that transaction. Where'd you go wrong there?
Yeah. So
do you own that property today? Sorry. Do you own that property?
Do.
Okay.
We do. Yep.
Tell me how that transaction went. Like, was it great, bad? Was it your first dud? Is it a home run? Give us some numbers. Give us, some hope for the rookie investor. How'd you find it? And try to give us some basic numbers. Don't get into the ratios or.
Right. Yeah. So we do still have that property, and it's it was our best cash flowing property in 2018. So, some of that is time in real estate has a way of healing all wounds. If you hold something long enough, eventually it's going to cash flow, hopefully. Right. And so when we bought it, we bought it for, this is in the early 2000s. So we bought it for, I think, $110,000. We overpaid for it without a doubt. It's even with the work that we've done to it now, it's probably worth $125,000. It's just, and that's Lancaster, not much appreciates, but yeah, so we bought it for 110, and most of what we put into it was sweat equity. We got in there, and even though I didn't know what I was doing, I was willing to learn. I would say that's probably the biggest takeaway from that property is I just jumped in. I didn't have all the answers, but I was tenacious enough, I guess, to figure it out. And so I'd never remodeled a bathroom before, but literally in this bathroom, you could look through the floor and see the floor of the kitchen. The beams above the kitchen and the bathroom was right above the kitchen. Those beams were rotted away. The place was destroyed. And we moved into it about a month after we bought it. We did dishes in the bathtub, because there was no kitchen sink, just crazy stuff.
What kept your motivation? You were new, insecure, young, married. What kept your motivation? Like, in the back of my mind, I don't want to be like my mom. In the back of my mind, I want to be rich. I wanted actually, my main drive was retirement. I knew back then I was blessed to know that the government would not be there for me. What really motivated you? Just the learning aspect of it. Was it your wife? Did you have children at this time?
We did not. We just wanted a home. Really. It came down to...
Okay. And this was a home that you could live in and live for free. So that's your driving force, because you knew in your mind as a youth minister, you would be broke. So, Okay, great. I can't wait, because I'm going to bring up the youth minister thing in a minute about where you're at today and how many units you have. And so, so you're the youth minister, you got your first duplex. So you got it done. You got a tenant in the side to the next. Was it awkward living with your tenant next door?
Terrible. She had these 2 dogs that freaking barked all the time. It drove us nuts. And I didn't have the courage to tell her to take care of the dogs. I didn't want to make her mad. I was trying.
Yeah, because she was a payday. She needs to stay there. So true. This game of real estate, it just sounds sexy on the outside, but there's so many variables, there's so many emotions and opportunities, and dishearts at all. What was one of the things that you did wrong on that duplex that haunts you, or that you would definitely try to tell someone else not to do in the future?
Oh man, it's picking one is probably the biggest issue. I'd say the one thing that I didn't do right is I ended up keeping that tenant way too long. I think I gave her 3 months without her paying rent.
Damn.
So, I might still be paying for that one today. So that's...
Hey, you're honest. So many people just lie. It's happened to me. I have been casual, which equals casualties. And yeah, that's okay.
It does. And so that was that first tenant. And we got some other tenants. And this guy just, he said all the right things. He called me Mr. Phillips. And I like that. That made me feel good. And he and his wife, they had 3 or 4 kids. And we're like, this is the perfect couple. They're like, we want to visit your church. It was like a match made in heaven. It ended up being a nightmare. This guy, he was like a bigger guy. And Elvis, you can't see me if you're listening to me on the radio. I'm about 150 pounds, 5'8". I'm a smaller frame. This guy's a huge guy. And to try to intimidate me, he would literally answer the door in his tighty-whitey underwear, and that's it. Like, he wouldn't be anything else.
So
when
you're
I would
telling me
come
you're
up to
you're
collect rent.
scrolling over there, knocking on the door to get the rent, and this dude's like burly, and you're like, okay, I'll get back with you. Let me know, get your clothes on, and I'll come back.
Yeah, totally awkward. And I wasn't scared of the dude, but I just didn't want to see him in his underwear. I mean, he's hanging out all over the place. So
So what's your advice there? Like, grow a pair, or
yeah.
like bring a gun? I mean, how'd you handle that? How'd you overcome the lack of confidence because you probably didn't believe that you were a landlord. You were just some lucky kid with a duplex trying to eat for free.
That's it. And, of course, since I owned the duplex, the guy thought I was just loaded with money.
Yeah. So does the judge at the county courthouse, just so you know. You're a millionaire if you own a property. But it's okay. Yeah. You have 3 cars and you're broke. But
yeah, but you own that property. Yeah.
Let's just transition on. So kind of what happened with the youth ministry thing? Did you eventually had to take a day job somewhere where you just ready to move on, economics? What was your next job after that? Like the layman job, the real world job, not the church job. What was that transition there?
Yeah. So we had our daughter. I think we've been married two and a half years, and we had our daughter. So we bought the duplex, and we had a kid. I mean, that's pretty much boom, got pregnant a couple months later, had our daughter. And it got pretty serious for me then, because my wife had actually bought into the vision of staying home with our children. And so she was actually, if you can imagine this, she was actually going to take me up on my word. Like, you said I could stay home, right?
But you're the financial wizard, and you're like, man, dual income sounds real good right now, especially got burly guy next door with a peephole. No, I'm just like, your mind must have went ballistic. New baby in a duplex I can't imagine what you went through.
Total game changer. And, so I told her, yeah, absolutely. When you have that baby, I want you to step down from your job. Now, meanwhile, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking like, all right, bro.
Dual income.
So I did like any other self-respecting, male. I got a job. I got another job. And this was part-time at UPS. I worked early morning shift. People probably listening to this have done it and said it's the worst job they've ever had, and they would probably be right.
So let me get this straight. You had 2 jobs. You had your day job as a minister of a church, and then you had a nighttime or early morning job. Is that right?
I had 3 jobs at that time. I was early morning UPS. I was unloading a trailer, total grunt work. And then I was a youth pastor by day. And then I actually helped coach track and field in the evenings during track season. Off season, I just had the 2 jobs. And then honestly, man, it was a time when I brought my wife home, it wasn't easy. I mean, it was financially very difficult. And that duplex was a huge saving grace for us. And I just did anything I could to make it work. We still weren't making much money. I didn't overcome her income. The church could only pay me very minimal amounts. We went a couple of months without health insurance. Even with a kid, I mean, just crazy stuff that I look back on the things that we did. But I'd mow lawns, I'd stain decks. I mean, I just did anything I could to make a living to feed my family. And I did that for several years.
Okay, so this tenacity that's inside of you. So what was your motivation? Just to be a provider for the family and to sustain your family? Was your whole driving force? It wasn't to get rich on one duplex. So where was the paradigm shift where, let's let the cat out of the bag right now. How many units do you guys have?
19.
19 units. And you've been investing in real estate for how long now? Well, since then, I guess, right? Since 2000.
I would say really we've been seriously investing for about 2.5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
What and I know that you recently just quit your job as a full-time individual to pursue real estate investing as a full-time operation, entity, income. When was the switch flipped where you were like, okay, this is actually working? When you were inching this long, tell us a little bit more about your next acquisition. Did it go fast? Was it slow? Was there, 2-3 year gap in between? Tell me more about that.
Yeah. So there were several years from when we bought that first duplex to when we actually bought our second one. I ended up getting on with UPS. Long story short, I got on with UPS. It became a full-time job. And so I left youth ministry and took that job at UPS to be a full-time driver. Well, there's a thing in union world where it's called top pay, right? Anybody who's in a union knows this. And at UPS, I was a Teamster union brother. And you hit top pay. And that was more money than I ever expected to make in my whole life, right? And
well, how much is that money?
So we were making about $35 an hour.
Okay.
So 80, 90 grand a year, somewhere right around there. And
Great.
we lived in that duplex. We lived in that duplex for 9 years. So I was making that kind of.
Damn, 9 years, your suppression. No, I'm just playing.
So I was making that money.
How many tenants did you have in the 9 years? I mean, how many children did you have growing up? I mean, raising them up in a duplex.
Well, we have 6 now.
Oh, okay. So you guys were busy at night. Okay, so that's why you went down to one job to get 6. All right. So you traded 2 jobs for one job so you could produce 6, and you spent 9 years in a duplex. That's your freaking line right there. 9 years in a duplex to pay the bills. And how many kids did you have in that night? That were given birth in that time?
We had 3 while we were there. It's 3-bedroom, 1 bath is that duplex. So side by side, 3-bedroom, 1 bath, 3-bedroom, 1 bath.
That clarifies. My mind was like a 1-bedroom, 1 bath. That's the duplex I own. So that's what I'm envisioning you guys like hugged up real tight with. No. With the burly dude next door.
yeah, right. No, about 1,300 square feet per side. So pretty nice sized duplex.
Yeah, for 110, that makes sense. Okay, I don't know your market. So 110, I mean, that's $55 a side. I mean, $800 a month rent. I mean, what is the rent on the other side? Or what was it rent?
Then it was about $500, $450, something like that.
What is it rent now?
About $850.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
So you had 3 children. When was the flip the switch? When was the life change? Or, I mean, I'm going to do this real estate. Was it mailbox money? Was it a seminar? What? There's something that triggered you. And that's what we're trying to define right now for these listeners out there. What pushed you over the edge? Was it a disrespect? Was it the Teamsters? Was it that you're paying an extra $200 a month for something that you didn't believe in? What was it?
Yeah, so we were really enjoying the cash flow of the property while I was on top pay at UPS. I mean, we lived broke for that time. We still only had 1 vehicle. We got out of debt. And probably the crowning thing for us was that UPS changed our hours. And so instead of me getting home at 4, 4:30, even 5 o'clock, I was getting home at 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, on a consistent basis, and there was nothing I could do about it. And
what time would you go in?
We would start about 8:30, 8:39.
So you didn't see your children. They went to bed at 8, and they probably you didn't see your kids for that length of time.
No, I didn't, and that was the hard thing. But I had no idea there was even such a thing as financial freedom. Like, so you say, when did the transition happen? It like at that time, I was super frustrated. And so my motivation level was pinned out in the red, man. I was highly motivated to make a change, but I had no idea what to do. I'd never heard of financial freedom. I never knew you could build a real estate portfolio that could actually be passive and pay your bills. Like, I never even knew that. It never even occurred. I know that's silly to say. No. Here I am in my 30s, and I'm like clueless. And the crowning moment was for me is I met a gentleman by the name of Randy, and he really agreed to mentor me at one point. And we built a business together that centered around financial coaching and financial education. And he asked me some really pointed questions that challenged me. He asked me, he said, what do you feel like going out of life that you feel like you're not on track to get, Kurt? What do you want out of life that you feel like you're not on track to get?
Well said.
And it was pointed, because he said, if you don't know where you're going, then you're probably already there. And if you need nothing in life, you're going to hit it with amazing accuracy, which is nothing.
Jim Rome.
That was me. That's where I was at. I had no idea. And so he introduced me to Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. He introduced me to Rich Dad, Poor Dad, to The Magic of Thinking Big. Like all of these books, How to Have Confidence and Power in Dealing with People, because I had confidence. All these books, and it changed my life. Dramatically, radically changed my life. And as soon as I got on to financial freedom and gripped that, I'm like, this is what we're doing. like, oh, honey, we're going to be free. We're not going to have to do this forever. And so then it got real.
So the reality, and I've actually seen a friend of mine actually transform in what you're saying. It's almost like salvation of Jesus. You found personal development, and you found that the greater potential that you can do that you weren't tapping into, and you made a decision to decide to betterment your family and yourself. And I love that story, and I hope that people resonate. Listen, guys, you got to listen to, I love that book, Magic of Thinking Big by Schwartz, and Napoleon Hill, Think and Go Rich, and Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People, and ultimately Jim Rohn, create, the exceptional living. So personal development, and it was like a light bulb just came on. And then where did the financial aspect come on? Because I know, I love Jesus, and I took the vow of poverty. I grew up poor, and then when I became a Christian, I thought I was going to be a minister. And I thought that, I need to be poor. God walked around with flip-flops on, so I don't need shoes. I don't need material things. And here I am, 100-something units and like in the beautiful vehicle that I drive in that I don't deserve. How did you make that change, that transition? And I could tell you mine, where it really resonated with me. I went to this situation, and maybe we could share that. But where did you make that change from saying, we're going to be broke, honey, to now we're going to be wealthy? Tell me that. And was that ever a conversation, or was that a progression?
It was more of a progression, but for us, it wasn't so much about being wealthy. It was about being free. It was about having the freedom to say goodbye to UPS, to say goodbye to somebody dangling my puppet strings and telling me what I could do, when I could go to work, where I could go on vacation, when I could go on vacation, and really, I'd say all that stuff was important. But the biggest thing that got me is they were dictating to me when I could see my kids and when I was going to raise, and that, man, I couldn't deal. We were building our family. We ended up moving out of that duplex. Eventually we did move out of that.
Finally, I was like 10 years. Oh, you still live there now?
No. We eventually bought a house. So
you bought like 18 of them.
Well, yeah. But
so that's such a great thing. Okay, man, I'm just so excited for you. So freedom was your ultimate. So have you ever heard Brad Grayson speak before? Do you know who that is?
I know who he is, but I've never heard him speak live.
Okay, so his big thing is he gets everyone on the chair and to scream the word freedom. And it's funny that you say that. I don't say that word enough because I live in freedom, and I know that you're debt free, and I know that. And I forget what it's like to be on the grind, that, you're trapped and, oh man, I got a mortgage payment. Oh my man, I got a car payment, and I don't know how I'm going to do it. And I'm pissed because I'm calculating how many years I'm going to be in diapers and how much each diaper costs. That's how psycho I was. It was like $60 a month in diapers. I'm like, how can we figure out another scenario here? Can we go with the cloth? My wife looked at me like I was on crack, but that's another story. So, my defining moment when I realized that taking the vow of poverty may not be the ultimate goal in life for everyone was when I went to this Bible study, and I realized that it's okay to be prosperous, that you can, I always was a suppressive upbringing and suppressed and not worthy enough, or I'm not capable enough. I need to be a woodworker. I'm not smart enough. I'm behind. And when I finally got to this Bible study, and this was gorgeous, several $100,000 house, and everything was nice, and they were preaching prosperity, not as a control, but then I realized that really changed my mind. It's okay to be rich and to love Jesus. And then now I realize, as I reached this pinnacle in my life, what I can do with the real estate and provide for the people in the church that I thought I would never do. I would be on the receiving end, and here I am giving. So that was my defining moment, was that one time, that Bible study. But I'm glad that for you, you wanted to offer freedom for other people. So we're running out of time here. And a lot of people, if you don't know, we're going to talk a little bit more in another episode and meet Kurt Phillips in a more detailed way of what he does now and his passion for comprehensive financial approach to financial freedom. I know that's a lot of words there. And why did I have him on here is because he shed lights and, he loves spreadsheets and I hate those green things. And he has opened my eyes and, really analyzing your return over a period of time. And there's a thing called debt equity, where if you're not really maximizing, like he said earlier, in 2018, that was the best cash flowing property. Well, if you didn't track that, and if you didn't put that through calculations, you would know that would be the asset that you might need to fix up or sell. And that's where I'm at today in my career. I look at every property, I put it through an equation. Do I keep this thing? Is it debt equity that's not being used, so I can grow my portfolio? And so Kurt's going to come back on relatively pretty soon and kind of give us some financial concepts that we can kind of grasp and apply to real estate. I know you're very passionate about it now, and because you've been on the other side. Now you're debt free. You have 19 units. You have really big goals. I love your goal for this year to put on 10 more units. And we get to see you in March at the Chattanooga Investor Weekend. So, and we'll talk more about that. And we're going to wrap this up right here, Kurt. So I know we've talked a lot about personal stuff, and we talked about being married, and we talked about your first deal, and we'll talk about other deals in the future. What advice would you give someone that's really, they've been working their job, they've been living in a duplex for 15 years, and what advice would you give them that you've learned thus far?
Stay hungry and really grab hold of the vision of what you have for either yourself, for you and your spouse, or if you have children, for your family. Because that vision, if you can align your family or align yourself with that vision and push and pull and claw towards that with all your focus, with everything, if I could have just gotten rid of the peripheral things sooner and focused down on getting free through real estate, I could have done it way sooner. But there were so many other peripheral distractions that I would chase after. And so my advice would be narrow that down. What do you want? What motivates you to maybe get out of that job or to get out of debt? And I would say not even to get out of debt, and we'll get into that more of another time. I would say that's not a great goal. I think you got to go beyond that. Debt is maybe a good stepping stone, but it's just one stepping stone. It's one of the things that I love to talk about. Mm-hmm. But to have that vision and then to pursue it with just everything in you. And you'll be amazed at how quickly it can happen when you put all your energy in that direction.
Yeah, maybe we should talk about that on the next one, how to get out of debt and don't have a plan. Well, yeah. Kurt, it's been an honor to have you on the show. Again, I only interview people that inspire me. You do inspire me. Your story, I had so many things I didn't know about you. And I can't wait to see you in a couple of months at Investor Weekend. If you want to come, tickets are on sale at an early bird discount. It's investorweekend.com. And stay tuned. Kurt Phillips, I'm telling you, is a diamond in the rough, and he's going to bring some knowledge, and he's going to lead a roundtable, and he's going to share on stage, how to really break out of your 9-to-5, and with slow incremental steps. And as you said, you got to claw in there. And he's going to also talk about how to get your wife on board. Remember, we had to flip the script. We had a very successful lady that's very powerful in a very unique way, just ride alongside him, and she supported him. And it's amazing that the team that they have now in Lancaster and what they're doing is incredible. But we don't want to let that out of the bag. So Kurt, I can't wait to interview you again and have a fabulous short few days until I call you back.
All right. Thanks, Steven. It's an honor being on here, man.
All right.
Investor Weekend is not far off, with over 10 information sessions to increase your portfolio. Log on to www.investorweekend.com. Whether you are a seasoned investor or never purchased a property before, you don't want to miss the Investor Weekend. Join us for a powerful, knowledge-packed weekend with over 10 informational sessions that are bound to enlarge your real estate investments. You will hear from the best national and local real estate investors that will share practical and relevant experiences with you, the investor. There will be several networking sessions to connect with other like-minded people for potential funding, partnerships, and yes, hot deals. Go to www.investorweekend.com. Did you know we meet once a month for the Landlord Lunch Meeting, the third Wednesday of every month Go to landlordlunch.com.
Thanks for listening to the Savvy Radio Show. Glide online and listen to our other motivating episodes at savvyradioshow.com. Connect on Twitter at LandlordBook and always be buying assets.